And we're live.
Hey, good afternoon or good morning. It's almost afternoon here in Charlotte. It's 11:52, but it is July 29th, and it is Pride Week in
Woohoo!
Charlotte Pride Week, virtual style. No, it is pandemic style, so we don't have we don't have obviously the parade in person, or there's no in-person events, but there is daily events, including culminating this weekend, which had we not had the pandemic, we would have had, the normal festival and all that. But it is this weekend, the 1st and the 2nd of August. We have a 8-hour virtual festival on Saturday, and then about a 2 to 3 hour virtual parade on Sunday. So we're trying to simulate kind of the timetable of Charlotte Pride and do the best we can and still keep all of our valued followers and guests safe. Obviously, there's no way with the size of the Charlotte's event, the Charlotte Pride's events, we drew over 200,000 people down in Uptown in Charlotte last year. There's no way we could do that this year in any responsible way. So everything has to be virtual. But there is, if you go on Charlotte Pride's Facebook page or any of their social medias on Twitter or Instagram or their web page, there's a list of events, how you can be involved, how you can tune in, and there's something tonight, and I'm blanking on it right now, and then there's something almost every night. I believe tomorrow night's deal has with Charlotte Latinx Pride, and I believe tonight is something to do with Women's Pride and Lesbian Pride, and last night was a trans event, and so it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, once again, Jenny was so excited about Pride, she forgot to introduce the show.
I'll just start talking. You guys are my friends. You're hanging out with us here in the fictional track, but this is Two Queers in a Track, and I am Jenny-Jaymes Christian. I've lost my little queer brain. It's just like queer overload since last Friday, but it's and then of course my partner in crime, Christy Cano, that also produces our show, and our first show, which is the morning show, the coffee show, and it's just we just get into a conversation because we've been rolling since about 9:45 that I just kind of flow into it. I never do really introduce the show. I just figure once they start hearing me talk, they realize the show's on.
That's right.
And it is what it is. I'm a queen, so I get away with that. But,
that's right. Well, listen, everyone.
How's Key West?
Oh, it's wonderful. As you can tell, it is beautiful. The requirements here in Key West is if you are outside, even if you're jogging or playing golf or anything, you do have to wear a mask. So I am to abide by laws. I'm wearing a mask. I'm out in a little tiki hut where we're staying. But yeah, it is wonderful. I can't wait to get home though. We've been here, and it'll be good to see everyone back at home as much as we can see each other. So we're doing the imaginary truck today. So just in case people missed it, tell us about what's going on with Pride so I can share us.
As far as what's going on for Pride events?
Yes, if you can repeat it all again. Yeah.
There's a programming that starts that's been going on almost every night this week, but even tonight there is a thing about lesbian and women's pride tonight. I believe that there's a Latinx thing tomorrow night. Saturday and Sunday, of course, are the big events like they normally would have been had not COVID, but instead of being in person, they're virtual. So we have an 8-hour festival, an online festival starting Saturday. And then we have on Sunday, we have the virtual parade. So people have already submitted their videos. They're all queued up. They're ready to go. It's going to be fabulous. It's all free. You can view in several different ways. But if you go on Charlotte Pride's Facebook page and or any of their social media, you'll see all the links, all the advertisements for the different events, including the only thing that's in person is the scavenger hunt. So they have this really cute thing with a bunch of nonprofits and businesses all over. There's 30 locations, and you can it's all free. You can just go pick up trinkets, get introduced to different facets of LGBT life and our allies. And it's a lot of fun. I've already made stops. Actually, I've got to a couple of things. So I made a stop at Transcend Charlotte. and I got myself a little pansexual button. And then I also got a little planner, little notebook from Time Out Youth. But there's just a lot of little trinkets. You can win prizes. It's literally a scavenger hunt. You can actually upload the photos and win more prizes. There's all kinds of really cute things they're doing to participate if you do have time. And it's just a fun. We're trying to make it as fun as you can and still be responsible to all of our loyal followers and guests. And it's a balance. It's just like, just like the Democrats and the Republicans have figured out, how do you continue to do business? How do you continue to operate and still keep people safe? And that's so that's what we're figuring out. And I think we've done a good job. I love the programming. I love last night's show about the transgender community, specifically North Carolina and Charlotte, and a lot of historic figures that were transgender made a huge difference in this community on civil rights, even before Stonewall. And very fascinating deal, and just neat to hear about stuff in your own community that happened way before my time.
So you talked about how people are having to pivot, Pride and the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, but this is not our morning show, Jenny. We got to throw some shade today. So,
oh yeah, no, we got plenty of shade. So that we got all the niceties out of the way, and now it's time to light a fire under a few people. And we got to pick a TinFoil hat of the week, like we always do. But,
so we do know that yes, that the Republicans have pivoted, but it didn't come easy. They were.
Well, here's the irony of irony. Now, the thing in Jacksonville is canceled, and it is, now the Republicans are doing all their mea culpa, and they don't want to admit that Governor Cooper was right. He was so vilified in the press for taking a stand and backing the city of Charlotte, and he was right. Even Jacksonville and the Republican stronghold of Florida, with the crazy governor DeSantis or whatever his name is, they're all saying, no, we can't do it now. And after all that, after all those battles and all that, now we're going to do a predominantly virtual thing, I think with a little bit of outdoor, and that's like it. And they realized, and luckily the Democrats had already pivoted and have been, and this is such a fluid thing. And people, I think when we started this pandemic, we all thought, well, we'll do a couple of weeks of quarantine. This is going to blow over. This doesn't happen here. It always happens in China and other places. But America's America. We're America.
Well, we were told by President Cheeto that it was all going to go away when it gets warm.
Yeah, the summer's going to kill the virus, and because, Dr. Trump and his Trump University, and he's such a well-educated, learned doctor there, Dr. Jellyfinger, it just was going to make all this go away. Like he's become a virologist, an immunologist or something, and it's just crazy how many shade tree doctors there are out there, not in a good way. It's like these people just all of a sudden are not educated above their intelligence. They're hillbillies, and we have proved one thing to the world: we are the hillbillies of the planet. We are absolutely the hillbillies of the planet. I mean, you watch these Karens and these Garys online, and there's so many of them are in Florida, not exactly where you're at, but in other parts of Florida. I just watched a video where this restaurant in Florida was full of white people, white conservatives, and the cops came in because none of them were wearing a mask. It was completely packed to the gills. Like it was a small restaurant, and everybody was butt to butt chanting, "No mask, no mask, cops go away, leave the business owner alone." And I'm like, and the cops, of course, they had the mask on. They're like, screw it. You know what? If you suckers all want to get COVID, peace out.
So what happened to him?
And well, then after they ate their food, they showed another part of the video where they went outside, and I guess there's some apartments right above.
Yeah.
And then some ladies stuck their head out and said, "Hey, we've got COVID. This thing is real. You need to be wearing a mask." And they're saying, it's your right to stay up in your apartment. But you stay up there, we'll stay down here, and we can do what we want, basically. We're not the boss.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
what the hell?
Okay, so let's be real. If that had been a restaurant full of black and brown people doing that, there would have been tear gas. There would have been all kinds of stuff going on, but they just let them eat.
The cops just walked out. They just didn't enforce the rules. You know, it was like, I saw the two police officers making eye contact, and it looked like they talked to the business owner or the manager at the restaurant, and then they just deuced out. They just like crazy white people.
That's crazy.
And I, and I've got a lot of relatives I come from a very conservative white family, and as far as I know, I don't know of any of my family members that are not wearing a mask. Like even my dad, that's hardcore MAGA hat wearing, religious, conservative, retired military officer. I mean, he's got all the check boxes of every white institution you can think of, and he wears a mask and he social distance. You know why? He believes in self-preservation, and I can't understand these fools going off on this mask debate just from just being selfish, just you know, like even if we find out a year from now that the masks were silly, wouldn't you want to just go, 150,000 people are now
just
dead.
In case.
I think there may be something to the mask thing, as other countries are opening up, most of Europe is back open to some level and doing fine.
Well, all I know is that we know it's political. We also know it's racial as well, and it's like the last gasp of white
stupidity.
People. Yeah, it's a last gasp. This is the last thing they can prove. They don't have the sports. They don't have a lot of things. They've lost a lot of dominance and a lot of things are not dominance. They think
that's a whole different subject.
Yeah, exactly. but I guess what I'm saying is that. For an example, we were talking about the RNC canceling Jacksonville and coming back to Charlotte, whatever. It's almost as if though they were saying, "My bad," and that's kind of like their excuse. Oh, my bad. Well, and it's.
And I think it also too. I think you touched on it a little bit from the fact that they're on the wrong side of history of Black Lives Matter. They're on the wrong side of history as far as immigration and undocumented. They're on the wrong side of every argument. And so this is their Hail Mary. This is their, I can try to spin this and make fun of science and intellectuals and smart people and kick in this idiocracy mentality and be a COVID idiot running around with my machine guns and using my white privilege and throwing masks on the Target floor and going, "You're not the boss of me," like a 3-year-old at Toys R Us all cracked up on sugar at Christmas time, and it's like, y'all are grown ass adults.
But Jenny, what's so funny is black and brown people, even though we're objecting to them not wearing masks, basically what we're saying is, that's fine. We don't mind you dying off.
Well, and the
so we're actually laughing at them. We're like, that's fine. I mean, we'll protest it, but at the same time, we're like,
you have anti-mask crowds in obviously in the Latinx, the brown community. But you don't see them going out and demonstrating. When you saw the protests up in Raleigh and in Michigan and the other state, you saw nothing but white people. You saw guns. You saw rebel flags. You saw "Don't Tread on Me." You saw pickup trucks and probably country music, and you saw all these white people twisted that they can't eat the Chili's.
I'm so upset I can't fat shame on this show.
I know. Don't do that. Don't do it because
I won't go. I'm sorry.
I can't drop the S-bomb or the F-bomb.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I've done really good too. I've done really good.
Yes.
I haven't used the F word and since well, at least not on the show. I use it in my
Yeah,
personal
that's right.
life. It's sprinkled with magic and rainbows and ponies. But you talk about a bunch of jackholes. I mean, like the funny thing is the sad thing is the funny thing is it's hurting them more than it's hurting everybody else. But they're also being super spreaders. And they're exposing their loved ones. Like I saw a CNN thing yesterday, and it was this family down in Alabama, and they thought they were being really careful, and they were all meeting at their lake house, and they said we did everything outdoors, but 8 of the 11 people that showed up to this family event ended up with COVID within days.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to say I wish I could have jumped into that interview that Chris Cuomo was doing and said, yeah, but sometimes you had to go inside to the lake house to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
And so you still like, did y'all crap in buckets? Like I can't imagine grandma sitting out there on the porch crapping in a bucket. And so and he said they were there all day coming in and out of their lake house with their extended family. I'm going, even you still went inside. So you touched doorknobs, you touched sink handles. You know, you figured they touched just enough things. They probably went in and out to get food from the refrigerator. So you still touched enough things. And he admitted, he said, none of the 11 people, we all thought we were being safe and we were being socially responsible.
Well, and
but we refused to wear a mask.
Well, that's what's interesting you say that, because I don't know if we said this on this show or I think you and I may have, I don't know if it was, anyway, we're talking about people who have caught COVID-19, and there's almost this immediate need to explain, I was doing everything, I was being there. No one says, even though they should, no one says, I was trying to be as safe as I could, but I didn't do everything that I needed to. And because you can't just get it magically. So yes, you did try everything, but this shows you how deadly or how this virus is that even you've got to do more than that, you know?
You can be responsible. You can be responsible, and you can make one mistake and you can get COVID. So
like pregnancy.
Especially, I mean, you're just one tearing the condom away from having a baby. But the truth is, all the steps reduce the probability. So it's all about the math. And I know math is hard, especially for these really unintelligent, uncompassionate anti-math. Words and math and numbers are tough, you know. As they're just kind of sitting there rocking back and forth. I want to go to Chili's. I don't want to wear a mask.
Words are hard.
Kmart sucks. But, by the way, Philip says hi from Texas. So
hey, brother.
He said love from Texas. So hey, Philip, I'm glad you're watching again. But I think it's like all these steps: washing your hands, trying to be as social distance as you can, wear a mask. All these are you just don't pick one. You pick them all. You practice it as much as you can. And you can lower your chance of getting it by down to 3% transmittability just by doing 3 steps. And so just by one person not wearing a mask, so if it's just 2 people, goes all the way up to 17%. So it's just
Jenny,
crazy.
I was going to tell you, I didn't tell you this, but and I hate to say this, we'll see if Tara watches this or not. You know, Friday I got my hair cut. And I went to an authentic Latino or Latinx barber, which I hadn't been to in such a long time since I was living in Texas. And you know, they do we have a little bit different hair than you know, everyone has different hair, but we have, you know, unique hair or whatever. And so you have to wear a mask to walk in. Well, in Charlotte, you keep your mask on, and you just take these off, and they cut around, and they'll kind of help you. Well, here. You can actually take your mask off. It was the one thing that I did not agree with, because I know all it takes is everyone was wearing masks. The barbers, where there was these 2 young Latino guys that were there, and they had just finished getting their haircut, and they were hanging around. It's like a barber shop, hanging
Sure.
around talking smack, and they were speaking kind of Spanglish, like Ruth says, Mama Ruth, and they were talking about the Mike Tyson fight coming up in September. Well, one of them took his mask off and was showing like this. I'm sitting there getting my hair cut, and even though we were at least 8-10 feet away from each other, I
Right.
stopped. I like held my breath. I was like, because I didn't want to like breathe things in, and that whole time I kept saying, why did I put myself in this? I should have. I didn't want to at a peerness, I guess. I didn't want to say, excuse me, can you put your mask on, because I had never been there before. And
Right.
then I realized why a lot of the young people, especially Latinos and people of color and so forth, they do things like that. And it's just irresponsible, because
Yeah.
and it was spreaded to other people. And even though everyone had their mask on, he was exposing himself. Plus, he was exposing. It was very awkward. I was like trying my best, and it took like an hour to cut. Because they cut your hair really like slow. And he did a great job, by the way. His name is.
No, your hair looks great.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, dear. Anyway, so that occurred, and I got really nervous at that time period. But I thought about that. I thought, okay, if I catch COVID on this damn chair, I'm going to have to explain to Tara.
Tara's gonna kick your ass, and then after she's done kicking your ass, then I'm gonna kick your ass, because
Exactly.
you know better.
I know.
But I mean,
it was
I mean,
it was a little awkward, but
I get it. I mean, it's
luckily we're staying another week, so I need to get tested before I leave, probably. But
probably,
anywho,
or get
yeah,
tested when you get back home.
yeah, especially when I get back home. So speaking of shade, I thought about this and I wanted to ask you this question. I couldn't ask you on our first show. Is calling someone lady, is that misogyny?
No,
Okay.
I mean, I think it's funny as hell, actually, and being trans, and
Yes.
like, if anybody was going to take offense to that, it
Yeah.
should be somebody like me,
Yeah.
where pronouns and gender is so
Yeah.
important, and calling Tariq a lady is,
Yeah.
could be taken as almost transphobic.
Yeah.
But to me, I think it's just funny as shit. I
Yeah.
think it's just the fact that he is a drama queen. He is,
Yes,
like,
exactly.
you remember way back when we were watching him run out to South Park, where I live now. I live in South Park.
Yeah.
And you had a bunch of white people
During the
walking
marches,
down the sidewalk, and it made it sound like they were flipping over cars, like the
burning houses,
like the Detroit Pistons have just won the world championship in basketball again. And even the cops were on bicycles.
Yeah.
They weren't tear gassing anybody, because it was a bunch of white people mostly going down the sidewalk, obeying all the traffic laws, all the pedestrian laws.
And he said, it's the end of days.
Wasn't even walking on the lawns, like they were walking single file mostly. It was one of the most whitest, orderly Boy Scout meetings I'd ever seen. I'm going, it doesn't even really look like a protest. I'm glad they are going to South Park, because they got all these people in South Park, their butts just were clenching. All these white Karens and Garys that'll go protest, and they can't go to the Chili's, or they can't go to the bar, and they have to wear masks. But then those fools, when there was a Black Lives Matter protest, they were like freaking the F out.
Exactly.
I guess they don't understand the irony of it all.
I think
how they begrudge people protesting something about social justice, like Black Lives Matter. It's so important that people were actually fighting literally for their lives.
Yeah.
And then you got these people pissed off that they can't go get their hair dyed or their nails done, or they're inconvenienced by this kooky old pandemic that doesn't exist, and it just blows me away.
Well, I do think that what I give people who are losing power,
I will correct one thing. Sorry to talk over you, but
go ahead.
Because that's usually your role. But I mean, do I think you're a misogynist?
Yes.
Probably, but not over that issue. So I think with Lady T, it's just one of those things. It's more of a reference as, like, in our community, when we see a gay guy that's being really dramatic, We just call them a queen.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's misogynist. Like, you're just being
No.
a queen, or and then we'll snap a couple times and do a couple mea culpas and it's over.
Yes.
I think with both of us being queer, that for us, we don't think anything of it, because we also called Lindsey Graham Missy G.
Well, that's
So I think I don't think it has anything to do with gender. It just has something to do with more like, that's a queen over there.
Exactly.
Like,
That's no.
I don't take offense to it.
But that's what I found so interesting about some of those comments at the city council meeting, is that those individuals that were Tariq supporters, they are starting to try to use the same arguments that have been used against them. So basically, this is their thinking. I know you are, but so am I. I know you are, but so am I. It's such a childish.
I've noticed that.
Yes,
because we've had Kyle on the show, and he does the same thing. He's trying to do this advocate for different communities, and I'm like, well, where have y'all been? Like,
exactly.
You conservatives and you Republicans, y'all haven't actually. This is all very performative for them. Like, they're using pro-choice language about the mask. I'm like, it's not your body, your choice. When you're spreading a pandemic, and it has nothing to do with us invading your body. Like, we're not stuffing this mask into your nose hole or up your butt. I mean, we're not physically altering you. This is a piece of clothing to keep you from killing people. And so there's a huge difference.
Well, you can tell, especially with the younger ones, that that is they're strategically trying to find ways to combat, to throw shade, because they've never really been successful. So they're trying to find ways to throw shade in ways that have been thrown to them. The problem is, and this is what I find amusing, is it's so obvious that they don't care about the things that they're saying. That they're just trying to deflect the criticism on them. It's like, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? And what's interesting is the difference, I think, between when we did it to them because we were trying to whatever. Yes. And the way they're doing it is, the difference is, you can't throw shade if you don't have, I don't even know how to term it. Like, not everyone can just throw shade.
Well, I mean, you got to be on the right side of history. Like,
exactly.
Like calling you a dumbass for going to that barber. Technically, if you end up with COVID, you're going to be scraping a lot of egg off your face.
Exactly.
And, and I'll be able to throw shade at you, and we'll laugh at you once you recover from COVID. Then we'll laugh about it as long as you recover. And so we are on the right side of that argument. But when you're on the wrong side of the argument, and you're in the moral lowlands, and you're defending mask wearing, for example, and saying, I don't want to wear a mask, it's my body, my choice, and all that kind of crap. I'm like, well, we're not asking you to alter your body. We're asking you to wear protective equipment that other professions, firefighters, cooks, people wear protective equipment on their body all the time, whether it's boots, whether it's masks, whatever. And I think I can think of at least 12 or 15 professions, and a couple of them that I've worked in, where I've had to wear certain things on my body to protect my guests. And it's just a really simple common sense thing that's been blown way out of proportion for political purposes to defend Trump's failure, the chief COVID idiot, that has botched this thing, and the whole world is saying, dude, you botched it. You screwed the pooch. Like, you are the dumbest president America's ever had. And we've had some dumb ones.
Let me tell you how stupid these people, how interesting these people, I'm gonna say stupid, this is the second show, how stupid these people were. So these people were obviously on, they wanted to be a part of this, because Tariq's not stupid. Tariq knows they were going to talk about him on the city council meeting, so he got a bunch of his followers, or he tried to get a bunch of his followers to get on social media to post the same things that other people post, whatever. I mean, I give him credit for that, because it's like packing the city council meeting when you want your point of view. So they got on there, and you could tell a lot of these people aren't really as engaged at local politics by their comments. There was a white pastor that kept trying to quote MLK. And it was just like so
Gets
over
even
the top.
better.
And then he kept saying, whenever a black person would disagree with him, he'd say, let's have coffee. Let's have, that was his way of being passive aggressive. Like, I'm going to insult you, but I'd like to learn. I'd like to learn about, what you're going to do. And then
Give you a hug and a slap.
Yes, and so then I almost wanted to say, would someone just buy this, take this man up on coffee so we could shut the hell him up? But certain things you don't want to. So there's one lady, and I have her name here, and I'll share her name. She was, she kept talking about this and about police and it was, you could just tell from her postings that she's more concerned about being right than doing right on the things that she was saying. So then Minister Mack with the NAACP had said something about, well, Tariq doesn't really have a good relationship with the black community. Well, she posted, you don't speak for all the black community, or who are you to speak for? And I'm like, she's the president of the NAACP, you idiot. And obviously she didn't know that that's who she thought she was trying to throw shade. She's this white woman with her husband picture. Her husband's probably cheating on her on Grindr, as she's on there, drinking wine or whatever.
I probably chatted with him.
Oh, well, exactly. Well, I don't know.
Happy Pride.
Exactly. So I said, she's the president of the NAACP, show her some respect. She goes, well, she doesn't speak. So instead of acknowledging the fact that she screwed up, she wanted to double down on it and keep going. So then she decided to go after something else or whatever. So then one of her white women supporters decided to get into the picture and this. So you could tell that it was a plan to kind of defend themselves. And I don't blame them. We do the same thing in the progressive community where we support each other.
Yeah, but we're smarter.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the difference, though, when you listen to some of them and they're so flippin' stupid.
Exactly.
I'll blow them up whenever Governor Cooper does his press conference. I usually log in on it, and I'm just blowing up these idiots one by one. And we need to reopen all the schools and all that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a great idea to send a bunch of kids to their death. It's a fabulous idea to go ahead and send them during a pandemic, and like, I mean, it blows me away that they either refuse to see it. It's either woeful ignorance or willful ignorance, and it doesn't really matter which one it is. It's just ignorance. It's just pure ignorance. But yeah, go on.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. But it's so obvious, and that's why it's so wonderful. It's so fun to throw shade at them, because they're just learning how to throw shade. They're like trying to perfect it. We've been doing it our whole lives just to exist. As a defense mechanism. You can't learn throwing shade by just watching Will and Grace, or just by whatever the case may be. It comes across as really insincere and stupid,
But don't you think that it is showing that they realize that they're losing, that they're on the wrong side of history?
That's my point.
And within a generation or two, white conservatives are going to be obsolete. Like you're either going to lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I think history, first of all, like Trump's presidency after it ends this year is going to be the crap stain on the underpants of history. And and people are going to realize
it's going to be the shot on American history.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he's going to be the last Republican of his kind. And I think you're going to see quite a while where you're not going to see the Republican Party not do that good.
Yeah.
And I think they embraced crazy for so long with Bush and Trump that people were going, these guys are extremists. They're willing to go and kill people of color all around the world, blow up nations, and give tax breaks to the rich. And they're starting to be seen for what they really are. And I think that's why they're so scared of the Black Lives Matter movement and queer liberation. And they're so scared about the emerging statistics about how powerful the Latinx community is becoming. And I think the sheer size of numbers and the fact that we pointed out in the first show that the demographic has shifted. Yeah. So they've never learned how to live like we live.
Yep.
So as affected groups, whether
Hmm.
you consider yourself a minority or an affected group,
Yeah.
we've always had to use these tactics, so we know how to play the
Yeah.
game. And I
Yeah.
think now they're realizing we're about to shift under,
Yep.
and so we're going to do what they did. But because they're still on the moral low ground,
Hmm.
not only are they on the moral low ground on the wrong
Hmm.
side of history, but now you just sound stupid. You just
Yeah.
sound like like in the battle of the wits, they're coming
Hmm.
unarmed. I mean, like, but it
Well,
is funny. It is funny to
I,
watch.
I will say that one of the great things about knowing you, and I'd say this even if you're sitting next to me, one of the great things is you do have a very good sense of. There are some people that get it and some people just don't, and it's a developed skill that you get from your life experiences, from your professional experiences, and some people are good at getting things and some people it takes a little bit longer. Depends on what the issue is as well. So and that may be just from survival skills. I can speak for me as a gay male, Hispanic male. You learn how to survive. Sometimes you have to act straight to survive, or I thought I did, and so forth. Whatever the case may be, for family reasons or whatever. But you learned how to survive because you think, well, if I just need to get through this, so that way I can get to here or whatever. My
Right.
point is that you do have a very keen observation on political wins, and I've noticed that in you. Now, and that is, I agree with what you said about what I think is going to happen in the elections. Now, there's a part of us that sees it, but we're afraid to really verbalize it because we don't want to jinx it.
Well,
But yeah, yeah,
we don't want to. We don't want to assume a win. Like we
yes,
still need
yes,
to do all the
yeah,
work. You still,
yes,
we
exactly,
don't want to lay up now because
yeah,
this is when you put the gas down.
exactly,
And instead of Biden win by 8 points, we want him to win by 12. We want it to be decisive, and we
exactly.
want him to have big enough
We want
coattails.
the big middle finger to go to Trump.
Well, and more importantly, we want to make sure we win the Senate, we
Yeah,
keep the
exactly.
House,
Yeah,
that we can go through a Supreme Court nominations for the next 4 years with
exactly.
relatively ease. There is a there's a lot
A
of
lot at
reasons
stake.
to vote for Biden.
Yep,
And no matter what you think of him, he
yep.
still represents the best hope for stability. And the
Well,
Democratic Party offers the best and
mhm,
broadest and most diverse
yep.
opportunities. Is the Democratic Party perfect? No, because there's
No,
not going to
no.
be, we need progress over
Hmm.
perfection. And the only thing I say to our own party is
Hmm.
get off your high horse just because your
Hmm.
person didn't win the nomination. You just need
Yep,
to get over it. You
yep.
need to vote blue no matter who,
Hmm.
because Biden still represents progress over perfection.
Hmm.
And we
Well,
can't
I do
get mired
think, yeah,
down. He's not the perfect candidate,
no,
but you know what? Neither was Obama.
yep,
Obama made a lot of mistakes in his
yep.
presidency. He still kept up the war machine. He
Hmm.
expanded the drone program. He did a lot of problematic
He
things
he
too.
was he was he was the deporter in chief. Latina, we were
Yeah,
calling him that. We were calling him the deporter in chief. He was deporting more undocumented people than any president in history, and it
till
was
Trump.
done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay,
you're right.
so Obama was not. He was definitely progress, but he was not perfection.
Yeah.
But we've now looked back, and of course, Trump has helped that because you look at Trump now, and
Yeah.
he's this
Hmm.
inarticulate,
Hmm.
babbling idiot, and you look at the chief COVID idiot, and
Yeah.
you go, oh wow, now we want Obama back. Hell, we'd take George W. Bush, and I mean, like we would take almost
We'll take
anything.
Dan Quayle.
Yeah, I mean, where is Dan Quayle? Like,
Well,
like remember
but
when the most controversial thing a Republican said is
with
he
potato.
argued over potato and potato,
Exactly. Exactly.
and argued with Murphy Brown. It's
Those are
like
the good old days.
I'm like I'm like, how do we get from a vice president that just maybe doesn't have a grasp of
Hmm.
English
Yeah.
versus Pence that
Uh,
is a white sheet away from being the head of the Ku Klux Klan? Like,
exactly.
I mean, and a
Yeah.
total LGBT bigot.
And in
And
leather. He's a leather
yeah,
queen.
oh,
He's
he's a
he
queen.
just he
Like he's
just looks like he wants to be in assless chaps, uh, 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 you know, going like this on a big
riding
float.
a glitter riding a glitter stick pony, prancing down, Tryon Avenue, partying with us. Like,
Exactly.
I can't wait till he gets out of office. I'm more interested about what Pence does after
Yeah.
after 2021. I
Yeah.
want to see when he comes out, because
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Trump. Trump's gonna go do what he's gonna do,
Yeah.
and all that. He's a big steaming pile of poop. But
Yeah.
Pence is gonna be the funny one, because I would imagine by 2024 he's gonna come out.
Yeah. Well,
That is my prediction.
he's too wound up. He's going to be at I don't know. He may be
He's
here.
gonna have he's gonna have a classic meltdown. Him and DeVos are gonna go somewhere, and
and they're gonna take a couple of they're gonna take a couple of those what are those shots? Firebombs?
Fireballs.
Fireball. They're gonna say, what is that? It burns like heaven, but what is it? It tastes like heaven, but burns like hell. That's the logo for Fireball. They're gonna have
Fireball's
a couple of those Oh, I love them. But they're gonna have a couple of those fireballs, and oh my goodness, it's all gonna come out.
Have you ever had a Fireball mixed with apple cider?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fabulous cocktail. Just so you know. Not to segue from the shade we're throwing, but I'm going to tell you, if you like a really refreshing, if you like apple cider, and you put like a shot and a half of Fireball in a big glass of apple cider with some ice, you talk about a crisp, fun drink. Oh my gosh! Like it's a true white girl drink, so you would love it.
Well, so I'm wondering if one of the reasons, and I've said this before, one of the reasons why the fanatics that troll me, just me or whoever, one of the reasons is you can't shit a shitter.
Right.
My dad used to tell me, you can't shit a shitter. I was and this is why diversity is so important. I was very fortunate enough to hang around all kinds of people of color, country people, religious people, all white women. And most of my life I spent around white women working professionally. I've always loved, my bosses have always been white women. So I've known that. And so because I've known that, and the shit that they tell me, it's like, honey, you can't shit. I mean, you're talking to me. I'm like, I
grew up in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I really meant, I know that a lot of people, when they are having problems at home, they tend to take their anger and frustrations out on other individuals to deflect the pain. And there's a lot of people that are unhappy, and especially with COVID-19, where they're with people. I've got family members of mine that are married, that are with people, not a lot, most of them are all like this, but a couple of them are getting each other's nerves. I can see they're starting to take their anger out. And I almost want to say, and I said this earlier, I'm sorry that you picked the wrong partner, and don't take it out on me.
Yeah, like there are online therapists, and I'm a big fan of therapy. Like I see some of these people, and I've actually said some people that have said hateful things to me. I'm a big fan of therapy. I think you really need some therapy. Like,
that's good. I'm going to use that one.
Because I'm gonna tell you, there's some people that really need to be medicated, like that chick that was at Target that was pulling the masks off the shelf and like
that's crazy,
the Daredevil and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, those are like things for sale. Like it's so bizarre how freaked out people are about an inanimate object.
Yeah.
And so they've attached the word freedom to not wearing a mask. I'm so like, you got the freedom to die. Like, are you just excited to get super sick and lay up in a hospital with a tube shoved down your throat? Like, I'm not in a rush. Like, there's not a restaurant I can think of that I am willing to get sick over.
I agree.
And I'm not going to sit in a restaurant right now. I just won't. I'll do to go. I've got no issue getting to go food. Even walking in a restaurant with my mask on, grabbing my little bag of food, paying for it, and leaving. But I have no desire to sit in a restaurant with a bunch of other people, open mouth talking and smacking their food, blowing COVID everywhere. I don't care how far apart we are. I have never eaten a meal that's worth that. It just doesn't dawn on me that I'm going, I don't need socialization that bad. I can get on the internet and talk to somebody any time of the day.
So Jenny, do you think, because this is our show, we throw shade, do you think sometimes that people, even the people that we know, when they say, oh, I miss going to the whatever, or I miss the companion, is there a part of you, there's a part of me that thinks this, are you that unhappy at home that you have to get out all the time? I mean,
Well, I think it is.
what do you think?
I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is you want what you can't have.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so people want what we had.
Yeah.
Probably didn't appreciate it at the time too.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people just want what they can't have. And then, because if you tell somebody, well, you've got to wear a mask, just like a 3-year-old, you got 20% of the population, these conservatives, saying, I'm stomping my feet and I'm shitting my britches and I'm so mad about this and frothing at the mouth and slobbering all over each other. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to my church and we're not going to wear masks and we're going to pack 200 people in there. And,
that's crazy.
you know, like that cult out there in California that had thousands of people all crammed together out in that field with no masks on. And there had to have been at least 2,000 or 3,000 people. They didn't have a permit. They didn't get the permission from LA. And they did this big, huge open air gathering. But it doesn't work if you don't wear a mask and you don't social distance. Like, they were all sardined into this thing. And I'm like, oh, there's some super spreaders like that. So there's a million more cases just from them.
So the reason I say you can't shoot a shitter is because even I have, before this, you know, I would go out to, after we'd have a community event or something, you know, which was 3 or 4 days a week at certain times, I'd go out to our sports bar on my way home and I'd hang, you know, or I just to wind down, just to kind of like get away from people. And I don't necessarily want to talk to people, but I'm always sitting next to someone who's getting out of their house just to get away from the kids, get away, you know. So when someone, I do know that there's a large part of us, because I'm probably one of them, that we socialize at our neighborhood bar or things like that, just to get away from things that that's what we do. So just I will tell you, yes. So I will tell you, now that we've had this COVID-19 thing, I've appreciated I can do the exact same thing at home. And I think I knew that before, but there was always that maybe wanted to talk to someone else who was maybe going through some challenges or whatever the case may be. Like there's a young guy that sits at the bar all the time. He's a big Atlanta Braves fan. And he just he's got 2 little baby, 2 newborns, and he just likes to get away for an hour and a half and drink two drinks, watch some sports, and then go home. And he walks back and forth or whatever. And that's just his release. The last thing and so whenever we have a friend of ours who cuts my hair and she sits next to us and she's like, rah, 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 we're like, listen, we're just here to get away.
We're here to get away from that.
Yeah, we're just here to wind down, to get away.
Now you're drawing me back in. But I think that's the people that don't want to adapt or don't want to face the new normal. And because I'm as social as I get, it's one of the advantages is I'm very much an extrovert, very flamboyant. And I'm gonna tell you what, I love the online events. I personally have been able to go to more important events, especially in the same evening. Like 2 Wednesdays ago, I went to 3 different meetings that in pre-COVID times, I would have been able to only go to 1. And I was able to go to all 3 of the meetings and make an impact on all 3 meetings and advocate in all 3 meetings. And that was just things like that have really impacted me, as I see this is a way to teach us how to be sustainable and live as a people. And COVID, I've always said, and I'm going to keep saying it, it's the great filter. It has taught us more about ourselves, what's right about us and what's wrong about us. And it's really going to make our whole society pivot one way or the other. It's either going to be voluntary or involuntary. You're either going to be obsolete at the end of this. And I think conservatism is on its way out. It is. Well,
the way it never is.
I think that mentality of bigotry and intolerance and all that, and this objection of intellect and science and all that is COVID has a direct causational effect. Like, if you don't wear your mask and you spread this, people get sick and some people die.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like with HIV where they say, well, it's just the gays, it's just they're being irresponsible. This affects everybody. So,
but Jenny, didn't you talk about that? You talked about this before, and I know we've talked about it, about we can learn from the AIDS crisis, and we can learn from some of the mistakes, or I don't say mistakes because it's hard to say mistakes when you've lived through it and woulda, coulda, shoulda. We can always say that, but
there were mistakes on the policy level, though.
Yeah.
I mean, on the Reagan and Bush administrations, Bush 1, they made some very tragic political and policy mistakes. And even a person like Mike Pence, he made horrific, evil errors in Indiana when he was the governor that cost a lot of people lives and spread not only just HIV but other STDs as well. Hepatitis and HIV transmission went through the roof because of Mike Pence.
But do you think, and I'm going to say this is very, very sensitive subject, so I'm almost not embarrassed to say it, but if we're going to say, this is the show to say it on.
Yeah, definitely.
Having lived through that time period, and I remember when the bathhouses, those kind of things were open, right. And I remember there was this almost like the gay community, especially the white men gay community, was insistent on keeping these open, but we'll pass condoms out, but let's keep them open because it's freedom. It's freedom. Did it expose more people, or should we just shut them down? And so there was also this, I'm wondering if now we look back, and of course, hindsight's 2020, but we went through the same kind of little bit of rebellious.
Definitely.
Yeah, people were refusing to accept the fact that people in our community were dying.
Well, they didn't want to pivot. I think it's the exact same. It's the exact same comparable. So they were both pandemics, and you had very simple steps to be able to. And at that time too, there was no PrEP. There was no antiviral drugs, retroviral drugs. So you either were positive or negative. If you were positive, you were dead.
Yes,
it was
exactly.
Death. HIV meant death in the 80s. People weren't living. Some were getting it and dead in 6 weeks. And we both knew that. We were children of the 70s and 80s. Yeah. And that was just the way it was. And so there's a part of our community that again came down to willful ignorance. There were also super spreaders, and we're going around, and they may not have gone and got tested, so they didn't think testing was important. Corona's that same way. COVID's that same way. There's a lot of people refusing to go get tested, and are wanting to go about their lives. Defining freedom is I get to do what I want when I want, even if it has consequences.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like screw you. I'm going to do my thing. Yep. And so, that 20% of our population, no matter who you're talking about, there is that selfish. And the same way with gun rights. Well, I want to keep my guns. It gives me my penis extension. It makes me, I got my big truck, my big shotgun, I've got a small, way. And it's kind of that same thing. And I think it's really driven by white males. Whether it's white males, whether they're gay, straight, Republican, whatever. I think it's just a mentality that we're top of the food chain. The rules don't apply to me. So screw you, know, and then the rules apply to you, transgender girl, Latinx gay dude. Those rules apply to you, but they don't apply to me.
I'm a white woman.
Yeah, you're a white woman. You're a white woman from the suburbs, But I think that a lot of it comes from that, like do as I say, not as I do. The rules. We are the colonial rulers. We've always been top of the food chain. Whether we're the majority or the minority, it does not matter. We set the rules, and they've gotten so used to that. And after 400 years, I can see why.
Yeah.
But I think you just see that now, even in the LGBT community. You see a lot of white gay men that have a lot of prejudice against trans women, people of color that are gay men. You see a lot of discrimination still in our community, and we have to speak about it. We have to talk about it,
Exactly.
like we did today on the coffee show.
Well, so I guess the question is, and I know we've kind of had this conversation off the air, but with the fastest growing demographic that seems to be spreading this a lot as younger people, or demographically or whatever. And I know we've talked about whether that's because of they're going out to bars or whatever the case may be. Is it possible? Because I was thinking about this last night. Is it possible that one of the reasons why it's spreading so fast is because people at home and they're doing more of this online dating thing, or hookups? Let's be honest with you, it's really more hookups. And we know when the Olympics was in whatever country it was, Tinder or whatever that app is, where they were having sex, it was like they broke records. It shut the system down in the Olympic Village. Everyone was hooking up so much, and so because people aren't able to go to bars, so many more people are doing the online the app thing, whatever,
The
and they're
grinders
hooking
and the tenders.
and they're hooking up a lot more, which they don't know who the person is they're hooking up with, and unless they're wearing a mask, and I don't, I guess, I guess you could hook up.
Make glory holes come back into fashion. I mean, there was actually an article about it.
I saw that.
So the CDC was talking about glory holes and glory hole safety, and I'm like, man, the times have turned. Like, I don't even think people really understand what that means. It's like when we joked about how teabaggers didn't understand what teabagging means. They had graphics in the article too. Like it showed this hole in a wall and proper glory hole safety etiquette in the era of COVID, and also sex positions that you can do, like doggy style or whatever. And I thought this is very fascinating. This is fabulous.
So when that came out, or when those
reverse
things
cowgirl.
So when those things come out, you've got these guys on the down low. Many of them are conservative. Their wives are the ones that are whatever. They're like doing that deep swallow, like the first time you see sex in a movie, you're like, it's just very uncomfortable. And then the little kid's gonna say, "Daddy, isn't that what you do when you go to the bathroom?" It's like.
Well, what's hilarious, or the old boy that goes to the truck stop or the video theater and knows what a glory hole is. And Martha or Karen asks him, "What's a glory hole?" And he's like, I think I gotta mow the lawn." It's like
exactly.
The dude's been to a glory hole. It's like these straightish dudes, and I think it's just hilarious. Like,
it's Jenny. What's the glory hole, honey? Those damn black people, they still rioting? And those Hispanics, are they taking our jobs? It's the deflection. It's the shifting. It's let's not talk about, let's keep the topic on something else so we don't have to talk about the actual real issue,
That's where Missy G goes to meet her friends.
Exactly.
I just again, it's the hypocrisy and it's just the hilariousness of these discussions that when we talk about sexuality, and we all know everybody has sex, every adult has sex, like there is a reason why there's 7 billion of us on this planet. Like, if nobody was having sex, we would have died out a long time ago. But it's just the sexual revolution should have ended all this discussion, but we still got people trying to monitor what people smoke, what they drink, what they do, but those same people don't want to wear a mask. Like, they want compliance, and it always goes back to do what I say, not as I do. And it's just insane that the hypocrisy is not lost on me at all. Like, I just shake my head and just go, you guys really are stupid. Like, I used to think they maybe were smart enough and self-aware, but I really truly believe that conservatives are just it's the way they've always been, and we're just really in this internet age. We can now see them. Before it would be urban myths. Back in the 80s and 90s when we didn't have camera phones, you couldn't see it, but now we can see this on YouTube. We can see it on TikTok and all the other social medias. You can just see these people having these conservatives having these epic meltdowns.
But
don't
you think also it's a little bit of just this country growing and maturing? I mean, we're a young country.
We're growing.
Yes, and we're coming out of the adolescent stages of a country. We're going into the adult stages of a country. It's like I hope we are, because it's almost like when you see the countries that have a longer history of calling bullshit, or like what's the term you use that I've been using this week? I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that, or what is it?
Call it out on the BS.
I'm gonna have to call bullshit. So like comedy in Britain, for an example, or London. The people are just very matter of fact. They're polite, or they say it politely, but it's just very
dry.
Yeah, it's like,
dry.
Oh, Queen, please. And so we are now. We've always seen the interesting person in our family, the conservative person, the tin hat person, which we need to give that award here because we got to close out here.
Yeah.
We've known those people, but now we're getting to the point where there are more of us who see it. And we're looking at each other and going, okay, we've lived a long time putting up with this. Now it's time just to say, honey, please, and it's just, I think that's in a good sign. That's good because we're not holding those things in anymore, and so I don't know.
I think we're seeing people for what they really are. I think we're seeing the curtains drawn back. And I think social media is a big part of that. And because we have more time on our hands because of COVID, we can't go out to bars, we can't go out to movie theaters or bowling alleys. So you're either home or you're at work. So it's really, it's a very black or white life right now. We're very much in silos, which means we need distractions, which means we're either going to be on Netflix or social media. And because so many people are on social media of some kind, you're getting to see people show their butt that would have gotten away with it, because bullies always love lack of transparency because they could always be isolated. Now, Trump weaponized social media, but it's also what's killing him. So what made him in 2016, and I read an article on this in the New York Times, what made him in 2016 was because he was considered the outsider, and now that he's the insider, he's still using the same tactics, and people going, damn, it's been 4 years of him just being a bully.
Exactly.
And so people are now seeing him as the a-hole that he is. Yeah. And even Republicans, there's a whole Republican movement that is basically saying, we're done. They're even running ads against him. I'm like, and I said this last year, the Republicans are the ones that are going to take him down.
You did.
Be the one and take him down.
And if you remember, even though we'll have him back, I'm sure he'll come back from his hiatus, but we had these conversations in person on Coffee and Ponduce, and I said, what's going to happen is people are going to make a decision. I just don't want to vote for a dick anymore. Right. And I know that and Jeff was correct, because Jeff did say if the economy is going, they're going to tolerate it. You're right, because you can't use the economy anymore. You can't. A lot of those things are.
But even if we rebound by November, I think he's just made so many unforced, egregious errors. And I think people are just tired. They're like, you know what?
So do you think
under Obama and Biden, the economy was pretty good? They're going to go, Biden's that old steady hand. And they're going to go, we just can't handle screw the economy, screw everything else. We just can't handle this idiocy anymore. We just can't handle it anymore.
So Jenny, this is kind of what I was talking about before, because we talk about this and we try to correlate it through, like, if we work with people, we're willing to tolerate people we work with that we don't agree with, as long as they're not dicks. And because Trump has been a dick so long that very few people are giving him the benefit of the doubt. The reason I'm saying that, because we got to end here, but with Tariq on city council, Tariq could have gotten the nod and the people, but he's been such a dick to other city council members and other people that there was no reason for anyone to come to his defense or to give him to treat him with light fingers or whatever because of how he has treated other people. So he has no one to blame but himself. Once you're elected, you do. I mean, I may say these kind of things, but if I was holding public office or if I was working with other people, the job is to get along. You gotta organization.
I think there's just a certain level of decorum that you expect, especially for higher offices like the president of the United States. And I think, say what you want about Bill Clinton, W, and Obama, all three of them, for the most part, held very good decorum. Like Bill Clinton wasn't around insulting people. Like, you know, he may get a little rattled about, you know, the whole Monica Lewinsky thing, but more often than not, Bill Clinton was very polite. You know, he was about, I feel your pain. Even W was not mean spirited. W was not, you know, he was kind of a buffoon, but he wasn't. He didn't come off as the hammer. He was very smooth. He was very likable for the most part. And Obama was the same way. And then you get somebody like Trump that's like human sandpaper. He's like sand in your crotch after you come back from the beach. You just want to wash him off. You just want to
no, that's exactly right. And that's not any different in anything that's competitive, whether it's politics or jobs or even family. During the heat of the sports, you're going to trash talk. But before a game, players are going to trash talk. But after the game, you shake hands and you're polite to people. And that's really when you get. So there are players that can't do that, and those players are ostracized.
Well, there's talkers and there's walkers, and there's people that walk the walk, and some people just talk the talk. And Trump is proven to be incompetent. And he's been a buffoon for 4 years. He screwed up so many things. And this whole COVID thing, this is not the only thing he screwed up. But the thing with COVID is that it has such a direct effect and such an immediate effect. People immediately started getting sick. And then a certain percentage of them immediately started dying. And now we have 150,000 people dead. That is more than the Korean and Vietnam War combined. And those wars combined years was almost 20 years of war. We just did this since March. So we have 150,000 civilian Americans that have been killed by COVID because of incompetence by one president. And he is the primary reason, and his lack of response, his lack of responsibility is why we failed. We have lost this war.
I agree.
And we can contain it if somebody starts to act a little bit more. But right now we've lost it. It's you know, we've got 25% of the cases, but we only have 4% of the population. He will go down as the worst president in American history by far. And that direct causation, he's responsible for it. There's no other way around it.
I agree, and I do think that it is going to be very difficult, or we have to make sure that we remind all those pro-lifers that have ran on this pro-life, how little they valued life when it actually counted.
Well, they always have. So I think, I think we have to stop calling them pro-life. They're not pro-life. They're pro-birth and they're anti.
They're pro-birthers.
They're anti-reproductive rights. So they are pro-birth because they don't care. The moment the kid's born, they don't care. I mean, look at our foster care and our adoption systems are horrific. So they don't care about the social programs that will take care of these kids that are born in the margins, to women that pass a certain due date or pass a certain deal, and they will now they carry it to term because, you know, my state doesn't have, like, if it's the cutoff is 24 weeks, and because they made it so hard to get an abortion, or you have to drive so many hundreds of miles, like North Carolina, you've got to travel so far to get an abortion in the state. And unless you live in the greater Charlotte area, it's really hard to get. And because they make so many hurdles, and so they're not pro-life. You know, the wars that they've held and everything else they're all very conservative killers, you know, and So they don't worry about life after kids are born.
Yeah.
So I think
Well,
it's just ridiculous.
well, we need, on that note, we need to end here so that way I
I
can
got
go
a
ahead and
tinfoil hat nominee though.
go ahead. Go ahead. Who?
It's gonna be that I can't remember the name of that cult church out there in California, but
Oh.
definitely that organizer. He said, well, I encourage people to wear a mask and social distance, but he packed them into this little gated outdoor thing.
Oh, really?
And it was like 2,000 or 3,000 people. So he
That's
definitely
crazy.
He's definitely a tinfoil hat wearer. He didn't encourage him. He's got this long flowing. It's this white guy with this long Jesus hair, and he's just an absolute. And in fact, I posted a thing on my Facebook so people can go look at it if they're my friend. But he's definitely the tinfoil hat of the deal. Of course, the Republican Party automatically gets it for their thing down in Jacksonville.
Yeah,
Governor Cooper told you so. He was right. Y'all were wrong.
Yeah. And but you know, once again, it's just funny to see the I forgot to say this on our rated PG show about how I was going to throw the first pitch out at the Yankee Stadium. I don't know if you saw that story, but apparently Trump just pulled that out of his ass, and just because he was so jealous of Dr. Fauci of throwing the pitch out to the Washington's game, that he just that same day said he was throwing the pitch at the Yankees hadn't even invited him to throw the pitch. After he made the statement, he told his staff, make it happen, and they couldn't. So now he has to say he canceled it, and it's come out to say he never even was invited. But it shows you how it's like we only have
like junior high. It just feels like junior high. That's something a 13-year-old would do.
It's 98 days, or how many 97 days till the election. It's like
something like that. It just because Biden's campaign, of course, they send out those emails, and so the 100-day countdown, I think, was like Monday or something like that.
Well,
but,
the good news is that you know, he's having these COVID-19 press conferences. It only lasted 2 days before he stormed out. He stormed out of the one yesterday because, you know, he shared that video of that doctor who was saying that aliens and demons are inside of us, and this, and when he was pressed with that.
And the alien or the demon semen or whatever it is, you know, I'm like, it's oh my God. Like, I've seen people post about it, and I'm going, that's insane.
It just shows how, you know, and so when he was asked that question yesterday's press conference, he walked off because he didn't want, they knew he was getting into trouble where he couldn't answer. He said, I don't really know the person, but he shared them, and Twitter, you know, put restrictions on him and Don Jr. So it in a way, anyone who thought he could go a whole week with being normal, we have to admit there's a little bit part of us that goes, let's just see if he screws up again. And he does it every single time. And it's like, well, he lasted 2 days. That's really good.
He does not disappoint. I mean, there's going to be a lot of comedians and talk show hosts that are going to be sorely miss him, because I think Biden's going to be extraordinarily boring.
Yeah, but we need that.
You know, but
we need some quietness. We
need a timeout. We need a timeout.
We need a vacation.
It's like being a single mom and having triplets. It is like triplets, and they're like 3 years old, and you're just like, gosh, I want to get some duct tape and some Benadryl out because I just can't do it anymore. Like you just want to go to the White House and go, I'm not going to hurt him until the Secret Service. It's going to go like this. Yeah. I just need to duct tape his mouth and his hands behind his back, give him a big dose of Benadryl so he'll go night-night for about a month. Because we just can't take it anymore. It's just an irritation that we can't get rid of until November. I mean, we tried.
Yeah.
We tried.
And you know, and I you know, the good news is that I do see us. I'm not afraid about the election anymore. What I'm afraid of is that we're going to give up on trying as hard as we need to. And so
I don't think so. I think Trump, and this is what that article talked about, was the fact that Trump doesn't know when to say when. So I think he is helping Biden's campaign just by being himself.
Biden didn't have to do anything. He could just do sit at home and just do nothing and just let Trump talk.
Biden can have all these virtual town halls, and this is his exact strategy. He goes, at least I'm not Trump. Just like Alabama can say, at least we're not Mississippi. You know,
exactly.
Are we? You know, or with North Carolina, at least we're not South Carolina.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Or Texas, at least we're not Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, I think Biden, no matter what comes out about him, whatever people accuse him of, whatever horrific things that he's supposedly done or tweet about, and especially Democrats that get twisted about him, I'm going, he can point to Trump's record and go, at least I'll be better than Trump.
Exactly.
He may be the second worst president in history, but he will never be the first worst. Like, there will never be a dumber, most inept human being than Trump.
And I don't think that's a bad tagline, or that's a bad campaign slogan. At least I'm not Trump.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I think it would just be like, my taglines if I was running against Trump, like if I had gotten a nomination instead of Biden, and my two taglines would be return to sanity.
Yeah.
And at least I'm not Trump.
Exactly. At least, of course, and then I would throw in as your vice presidential candidate, at least I'm not a dick.
Yeah. At least I'm not a bigot.
And then you would say, well, not all the time, Christian.
I mean, at least I'm not a homophobe, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it just they're going to be so easy to run against, and especially if Biden picks a fairly reasonable woman, because he's only going to pick a woman for sure. His whole candidate list,
Hey, listen, next week's show, since we'll finally be together, hopefully, especially if I test negative.
If you test positive, well,
I know. I know. Next week's show, I think we need to talk briefly about the Cynthia Walls campaign, because her campaign has now been switched to a toss-up, or not toss-up, but of interest. People pay attention to it. And one of the great things about that, many great things about that, is she's raised very little money in comparison to what the previous person raised. But more importantly is that I think what's important is that Bathroom Dan Bishop has tied himself so closely to Trump, even in his non-campaign emails to us, which are technically from the congressional office. He's so partisan and calls Democrat. It's like you can't tell the difference between his campaign and his congressional office. It's right. As if though he only represents those Trump supporters. He's not even shy about saying, I don't care about the rest of you. I mean, he's just so blatantly about it. And so it's interesting to see if Cynthia does nothing at all. I don't think she can win, but she can do very well, because
I think she can win.
Well, no. The only way I think, this is what we're talking about next week, is, and maybe we can kind of talk about this, is I think that she has to do nothing, but she also has to tie him so close to Trump that even the people who say he was a state senator, he was this, yeah, he may be a bigot, but I know that you've got to tie him so much to Trump that no one, it's going to be such a big difference. And I think anybody running against a Republican incumbent for the House or the Senate for the national, and any governor like Roy Cooper, they're going to get such what I call a Trump bump. Yes. Because any Republican, first of all Republicans are going to be tied to Trump, because he is the face of the party. Well, so Tillis isn't, though. Tillis is trying to act like he's a moderate.
Yeah, but he's already gone on record that he was pro-Trump. So there's too many things. So he's already made his bed. So Tillis is definitely tied. He already hitched his wagon. He can't unscrew that already. So, but don't you think? But its advantage is. Yeah, but don't you think next? Yeah, go ahead. I think Cal. The reason why Cal's polling so good is because he's one of Trump's minions, and we need to get those kind of people out of the Senate. Yeah, and I think if I was running for Congress, the national Congress, or a high state level office, like Governor Cooper, for example, man, I would just hammer the Republicans on the COVID response. Exactly. No, that's exactly right. Yep. And just tie that party completely to Trump and go, y'all all drank the Kool-Aid. Yes. There was no Biden signs or Bernie signs at any of the reopen rallies where when those guys were with guns, those were all Trump Pence signs out there. And if I was running for office, every other commercial would have reopen signs and mass protest signs. And I would be tying that and linking that to them and going,
Yeah.
When you vote for a Republican, you're voting for a COVID idiot.
Exactly.
And let that,
Yep.
like a dog with a bone, I wouldn't
Yep.
let it go.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly right. And you don't even have to say anything negative about the individual. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not going negative. It's just telling reality.
Here's the face
The
of the Republican Party.
Exactly.
Here it is.
The reality is, regardless of how brave you think this Republican candidate is, or if they speak whatever they speak, during the one time that we needed them to step up as a leader to protect us, which is what their job was to do, they decided to be a Trump minion. They decided to be a
because they politicized the pandemic.
Exactly.
When they should have been working on every level, federal, state, and local.
Yep.
And we should have all been locking arms like we supposedly did for 9/11 when every Democrat and every Republican, except for one in the national conference, was all pro 9/11. Let's go kill him. Let's go get Obama or Bin Laden and just be brutal. And everybody needs to rally. You don't like America. Why didn't we rally this time?
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It's the right thing to do. It's the patriotic thing to do, is to protect your neighbor and mask our patriotism 100%.
On that note, I'm about to run out of battery.
Yeah. I think we've gone over. I think we're.
Thank you, Jenny J.
We'll
I miss you.
Safe.
I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Two Queers in a Truck. Not in a truck. We'll see you. Happy Pride, everyone. I'm disconnected.